How's it going, guys? It's the final render here, and Wild Appalachia has finally come to a close. The first season of DLC for Fallout 76 is now over, and we have got a huge amount of new content added to Fallout 76, some of which were better than others, some of which were bigger than others, and we are now going to do an overall review of Wild Appalachia now it is complete, so that we can give our overall thoughts and opinions on Wild Appalachia. And also, people, the channel has been growing very effectively in the last few weeks. I'm really happy that you guys have been enjoying the videos. Remember to hit like and subscribe if you enjoy this video, and I can't wait to do more videos for you guys in the future. I promise I won't let you down. So, let's start our overall review of every bit of DLC from inside Wild Appalachia. Let's go. So Wild Appalachia kicked everything off with the Wasted on Nuka Shine questline. This is when we got to meet some very cool characters, and we were also able to get brewing added to our camp system. This questline led us to Morgantown, where we discovered some pretty insane frat houses and sorority dorms, and this eventually led us to a secret underground speakeasy that is controlled by Biv E. Ridge, a robot who is constantly intoxicated, whose job it is to invent new types of alcoholic drinks with special abilities so we can use them on our adventures. And of course, this also gave us the brewing crafting as well, where we were able to make most of the in-game alcoholic drinks in our camp, and also make some of these special new ones, which gave us special abilities. The locations that we got to saw were extremely cool. They were very nicely decorated. They definitely sold the idea that they were going for, that there had been some crazy party the night before. And some of the new alcoholic drinks are great, and Biv himself is hilarious. I generally enjoy listening to Biv, he makes me laugh a lot. But there are some problems with the Wasted on Nuka Shine questline. Primarily, I would say that whilst they added a lot of special alcoholic drinks, most of them you just never end up using. The ones which I typically ended up using were whiskey, which is obviously in the base game, but being able to make it in my camp system meant I could mass produce it, and it really helped power level my melee character. It really saved my skin a lot of times, being able to get an extra 6 strength when using the Party Girl perk, combined with whiskey. And of course, vintage Nuka Shine is fantastic. You get to double your unarmed damage, so it was always hilarious to see your Deathclaw Gauntlet doing something like 4,000 damage, but then you would pass out and appear somewhere else in the map after 5 minutes. That was always very fun. But another problem I also had with the Wasted on Nuka Shine questline is that when you would do the daily repeatable quests for Biv, he would give you duplicate plans far too often. Honestly, I feel as if you were going to do daily quests, you need to exhaust all of the plans first, and then start giving people duplicates, or just different rewards, because it got to the stage where I was just getting duplicate plans, and not getting the plans I wanted, no matter how many times I went there. So overall, I really liked the fact that it actually made the camp useful. Originally, your camp was just a place to store your junk and a place to decorate. But now, with the brewing DLC, it actually gave your camp some function. It gave it some purpose. And I really liked that. It was a really nice addition to Fallout 76, and I would really like to see more crafting systems added in the future. After that, we had fachnacht, which was the very first seasonal event of Fallout 76, where we had to prepare a giant parade in the town of Helvetia, and then protect a load of robots as they performed the fachnacht parade from an endless swarm of enemies. And honestly, this was way more fun than I expected it to be. I expected it to simply be just kind of another horde event, but what ended up happening was a really fun party where you would literally have maybe 20 or so players all in one spot at the same time, and it was so cool to see so many players working together to protect these robots. Even though the quest itself was very easy, I'm willing to say that a high level player could probably do it all themselves solo, it was a very cool thing to see so many players in one spot, and the huge amounts of colours and lights and everything going on in the parade itself was really cool, as well as introducing some very cool new cosmetic masks after you completed the event. Although, one thing I do have to say about the events was that whilst the camp decorations were awesome and the masks were awesome, some of the rarer masks were just quite simply too rare. It got to the stage where even giant communities like the marketplace just couldn't find people who had extras of these masks. They were that rare. So in the end, I would say it's a fantastic thing I really hope it comes back next year, and frankly, I want to see a special little seasonal event for every single holiday we can think of. I want one for Halloween, I want one for Christmas, I want one for Valentine's Day, I want one for National Talk Like a Pirate Day. I want to see a seasonal event for every major holiday that is worth celebrating, and I really hope Bethesda can integrate this, because in a couple years time, there will just be seasonal events all the time, and it will be a fantastic thing inside Fallout 76. Once Fastnacht was over, we were given the survival mode in Fallout 76. The survival mode was basically the same as regular Fallout 76, except PvP restrictions were removed, and also fast traveling was very heavily restricted to only being able to go to train stations, owned workshops, and your camp. And survival mode had a very rough start. There was a big problem with spawn camping. There was also a very large problem with certain PvP builds which were way overpowered, and that actually did lead to some things being nerfed, such as Assassin's Armor now only works 75% of the time rather than every single part of the time, which is probably a good balance change overall. And there are some very nice things about playing survival mode as well. Like, for example, you have got the ability to unlock a special legendary weapon every week if you go and complete certain challenges, which can only be completed inside survival mode. And they are generally very good legendary weapons, and that is the only way you can get that legendary weapon, and it will only be available for 1 week. And also just an overall 20% XP boost I think is a very nice thing. Doing double XP weekends, it's a good idea to just go and farm a load of stuff on survival mode with double XP on. Also take some cranberry relish so you get an extra 10% on that, and you can power level your character very quickly at the risk of getting PvP'd, of course. However, there is one major issue I have with survival mode which honestly, in my opinion, makes it difficult for me to play it, and that's not the PvP. I actually quite enjoy PvP in Fallout 76, but the thing which bothers me about it is the lack of fast traveling. Now, I know it's meant to be a harder mode, but there is too much traveling in 76 for a player to, realistically speaking, want to beat the game on survival mode. Think about the Raider questline for Rose in particular. That is taking place almost entirely within the Savage Divide, which is the entire height of the map, and often takes you to places like Charleston, which are also a little bit further out, for example. There is so much traveling inside that questline, and the lack of efficient fast travel, or even safe fast travel, because there still often are players camping train stations. Even though it's not anywhere near as bad as it used to be, it is still a thing that happens. And ultimately, I just think playing survival mode and actually completing the main story quest is just more tedious than it is fun. I do feel as if there are many times video games make a more hardcore version of the game, but in reality, they just make it a bit more tedious by removing certain comforts that we're used to. And ultimately, it doesn't make me want to play the harder game mode overall. But that being said though, survival mode is still a very cool mode. It generally does have that kind of battle royale or DayZ tension when you're walking around and thinking, there could be someone watching me right now and I would have literally no idea. But overall, I don't personally play survival mode, but I do think if you want to play survival mode, it's much better than it used to be, and there is still definitely a lot of fun to be had. The Sheer Terror questline was introduced not long after. The Sheer Terror questline added a brand new cryptid to the game in the form of the Sheep Squatch, and gave us a couple of small quests to go and hunt down an actual Sheep Squatch, and we also had several impersonators along the way, and an overall kind of strange, almost corporate espionage James Bond kind of questline going on, with kind of an X-Files vibe to it at the same time. And it was a very cool questline. The Sheer Terror questline had some really fun quests with some very cool design, and overall added a brand new kind of end game boss to the game, which would take many players to go and take down, and it helps bring the community together in one spot to take down one enemy, as well as having some very cool mystery quests that were added after the initial questline was made. A week after everything was done and all the players had finished the main quest, they updated it with a couple more quests, and that was generally very cool. The only things which I really have against the Sheer Terror questline and what they added is that firstly, the encrypted event requires one player to spend a lot of caps to actually start the event, and whilst it's true often players do come anyway, if you're one of those players who has spent it and then nobody turns up, you have wasted your money, because you're not going to be able to take down the Sheep Squatch by yourself, realistically speaking. At least we're not using every single bit of resources. And also I do feel as if the rewards for completing the encrypted event, honestly, aren't really worth it. I do think one or two aspects of it are very cool, such as the sheep squatch head mask is actually very, very cool. But there are some other things which are a bit bad, like overall the sheep squatch mascot outfit isn't very cool. And also a fedora. Really, Bethesda? Are you going to milady me up in here? But overall, I do think the actual encrypted event was very cool, and that one mask which you can get, the sheep squatch mask, is very, very cool. And also an overall problem I had with the main quest line was that some of the locations for the quests were in very strange places. For example, when you go to the Van Low taxidermy for the first time, I saw players going into a secret room through the wall. I thought, oh, I want to go in there. No, it turns out that is the last location you discover when you do the quest line. So here was me, a brand new person, getting it spoilt for me that there was a secret entrance which I couldn't go to until I'd done all the other quest lines. Seems a bit silly to have the final quest line in the same place where the new players are going to turn up, especially considering it's an online game, so I'm going to have it spoiled for me by other players. But overall, the introduction of the sheep squatch, some of the very cool designs, and some generally very compelling quest storytelling was awesome, and the fact that it actually did weave a kind of mystery that went on just outside of the actual main quest line as well. It wasn't just the main missions, it carried on a little bit as well. So I thought that was very, very cool, and I really liked this new encrypted event as well. I really hope they add more quest line, which add more cryptid enemies and more big end game boss battles. Next we had the camera that was added to Fallout 76, and I was a little bit confused when they said that one of the DLCs was going to be a camera, because after all, we've actually got a really good photo mode in the game, so I was very confused as to what this camera was really going to bring. But in reality, the camera is just a way to make lots of new quests for you to complete in order to get atoms, and it is generally something quite cool to go and just experiment with. I do find myself taking photos far more often. Now it's much quicker and easier to actually take a photo. Whilst it is true the photo isn't as good than if I had spent the time to properly focus and get a really good angle using the photo mode, but I do love the fact that I am taking more pictures more often. I do think that is a very cool thing. And the new challenges it brings is also very cool. It definitely gives us more stuff to do as players. But there are some things which are a bit awkward about introducing the camera to the game. Like, for example, actually getting the camera for the first time generally was a bit of a hassle. It would spawn on various bodies that you could find at certain tourist hotspots around Appalachia, but it would only ever be one hotspot in whatever server you were in. So typically speaking, I would just go to one place where I knew the camera would spawn and then just server hopped until eventually I got one spawn in where I was. And that was just a bit tedious, if I'm completely honest. If it was a bit easier to get the camera initially and start the initial quest line where you had to go and complete somebody's bucket list, which was generally the most saddest written quest I had actually seen inside Fallout 76. It was generally extremely sad and very, very heartwarming to complete it. But overall, it was a bit of a nightmare to start. And also, it does feel like there is a lack of mods for the camera. Once you complete the overall quest you get at the start, once you get the camera, you are given a new zoom lens. But that's it. I was expecting maybe some other kind of mods we would get. Maybe we would get some free skins for it, or maybe even some different lenses, maybe flash bulbs, anything like that, just to kind of help make the camera a bit more customizable. And also, where's the selfie mode for the camera? I would love to be able to actually have a selfie mode, kind of like in Grand Theft Auto 5 or the PS4 version of Spider-Man, you know, stuff like that, where you actually have the ability to take a photo of yourself. Come on, we live in 2019, we're in selfie culture. Let's get it in there, Bethesda. I know you want to. After that, we were given the Burroughs. The Burroughs was kind of marketed as a very hardcore, high-level dungeon, but in reality, it was just a quite simple side quest. The Burroughs was a special location hidden beneath Harper's Ferry, where there was a huge, almost little town built within the sewer networks below Harper's Ferry, and it had been full of ghouls and other monsters, and we had to go in following a Brotherhood of Steel distress call to find out what's going on in there. And ultimately, it led to a little bit of a mystery, and we had to go and deactivate some bad robots. But overall, the event itself was very, very short. When I first did it, I believe I beat it within about 20 minutes, including, you know, exploring a couple of the areas inside the dungeon itself. I then played it a bit later on with other players, and again, we completed it in about 10 minutes. And also, it was very easy as well. It definitely was not designed for high-level players. In fact, I'm willing to say it is more dangerous in Harper's Ferry above the Burroughs than it is inside the Burroughs itself. Because the Burroughs was meant to be this really hardcore thing, but ultimately ended up being way too easy and way too short. The actual area itself looks incredible. It's beautiful, the location. Some people must have spent months building the location of the Burroughs to make it look really cool and feel like a proper town. But that's almost heartbreaking in a way, because this is such an amazing location, but players are only in there for 10 minutes and they leave disappointed because the overall quest line was way too short, way too easy, and ultimately didn't really have any rewards anyway. I really hope Bethesda integrated these tunnels in a really cool way in the future to some other quest lines, because as of right now, the Burroughs just seems like a bit of a disappointment and is easily the lowest point inside Wild Appalachia. Ever Upwards was soon after that, and Ever Upwards was bringing in the Pioneer and Tadpole Scouts into Fallout 76 and adding loads of cool new challenges for us to go and play, and also some cool backpacks to go and construct once we had earned enough Scout merit badges. These were really cool events actually. When I first started this up, I thought it was going to be more of a traditional quest line, you know, kind of like the Sheer Terror quest line, where we actually had kind of a little story to follow, but it wasn't really that, no. It was just kind of a framework to introduce new challenges and give us some fun new rewards for doing these challenges. And overall, the aesthetic was very cool. We got some very cool characters to meet. We got some new repeatable dailies, which is always a nice thing. We definitely need more repeatable dailies that actually give us decent rewards. And also the ability to get a backpack is awesome. I'm pretty certain I'm going to be spending lots of points in the item store to get various backpack skins. I absolutely love these things. And I actually have found myself being grinding the challenges in order to get some of the special unlocks, such as camp building plans, the backpack mods, and also some other things which I'm definitely saving up for. Although, there is one major issue, I think, with the Pioneer Scout quest lines, or the Pioneer Scout challenges, I should say, is that frankly, some of the challenges are way too repetitive and way too tedious. A couple of them are generally very, very fun, such as the athletics one, the hunting one for the Tadpole Scouts, even the swimming one for the Tadpole Scouts is very cool. But for the most part, the possum ones in particular are very much just giant lists of stuff for you to go and do, repetitive lists. And some of them generally are very, very tedious and not fun to do. Yes, I want to get the reward, but at the same time, getting the reward isn't very fun. It's not about the reward, it's about the journey, and with some of those challenges, the journey isn't that fun. I really hope that when they introduce the squirrel section, where we can hopefully get some more merit badges, it will help improve it with some more fun challenges rather than just kind of more difficult collection challenges. And I do believe the Squirrel Scouts is going to be a thing. You can already find a Squirrel Scout banner inside the camp system, and it is true that you can't actually buy everything that is on offer inside the token machine. You can't buy every single upgrade or mod. You can only get some of them with the amount of challenges there are. So I'm hoping we will also soon get the squirrel challenges, which will then enable us to actually unlock everything with enough grinding. Player Vending came up next inside Fallout 76, and Player Vending is something that people have wanted since the beta inside Fallout 76. Whilst you've always been able to trade player to player with each other, no problem, Player Vending is the ability to just put items for sale in your camp, and then people can go to your camp and buy stuff. People envisioned becoming like a traveling salesman inside Fallout 76, and now that is something which you can definitely do. The Player Vending puts your camp on the map for people to see. If you actually want to have it do so, you can go and turn it off so that your camp isn't visible if you don't want to be spotted. And you can go and set the prices for whatever systems you want. Whether if you want to go and sell weapons, armor, meds, plans, even ammo. Originally there was no way to sell ammo inside Fallout 76 to the robot vendors, but now you can sell it to other players. And also the player vending machines themselves look very, very cool. And honestly, there isn't really that many issues with player vending I have really. The only issue I have with player vending is that one, there is a problem with stacking things in the game, in particular if you want to sell ammo. Right now in the game, you have to set an actual quantity for how much you want to sell, and you can only set a price per item within that quantity. You can't set a price for a stack. So for example, if I want to sell 100 bullets, I have to price every bullet at 1 cap each. And in reality, that's a rip-off. If I'm selling like 3,556 rounds, I don't want to sell it for 3,000. I want to sell it for maybe 1,000. There is a very simple way to get around this problem, I feel. and that is allow us to bulk ammo together. We can bulk junk items together in order to save space and also make selling bulk items a lot easier. Why can't we do the same for ammo? Let it be so that rather than selling individual rounds of ammunition at 1 cap each, I can maybe sell a box of ammo at whatever price I want. I feel as if selling a box of ammo or a slab of ammo or a bandolier of ammo, whatever you want to call it, would be a much fairer pricing system for selling ammo. It means players are more likely to buy ammo, it means sellers are more likely to sell ammo, and ultimately it's going to make buying large quantities of small items much more worth it. And now we have actually got a decent player vending system in place, I feel as if we now need to add a banking system to the game to where we can have more than 25,000 caps. Here's something which happens with the selling inside Fallout 76. If you have 25,000 caps and you sell something at your camp, you the seller get nothing. That just vanishes. You know, the person who is buying your item still pays for it, but the actual money just vanishes. You, the seller, do not get that. So what I feel as if needs to be done in the game is to have a banking system so that people who want to sell very expensive, very powerful, high tier weapons and armor can actually make money. For example, the other day, I actually bought maybe 8,000 caps worth of stuff from one trader. If that player, that trader, had maybe 20,000 caps on them, they're only going to earn 5,000 caps because that would then take them over that 25,000 cap limit. Even if you need to maybe complete a certain amount of sales before you eventually are rewarded a bank. Anything like that. Do what you need to do to make it balanced. But as of right now, I feel as if too many people are not going to ever sell high tier weapons and armor simply because it is not a decent value in terms of caps. That's why in the Reddit marketplace, a lot of very high tier weapons and armors are done with trade only, not with caps, because you can only store 25,000 caps on any individual player. However, there are some also amazing things about the player vending as well. Like for example, now we can actually see each other's camps on the map. That is so cool. There have been several occasions where I have found players who have actually built replicas of camps I have built on my YouTube channel, and that is honestly so flattering, and I would have never have known those camps were out there. And not only that, but it also gives us more effective ways to fast travel. You know, we can actually have a camp very near a popular spot and players can fast travel to there if otherwise you can't get there, etc. There is pretty much only positive things coming out of the player vending, but I do think it could be even better. Player vending so far is honestly, I think, the biggest change to the game, which is going to fundamentally change the way Fallout 76 is played forever. Next up, the purveyor was added to the game. The legendary trader finally came to Fallout 76 so we could get rid of a lot of the legendaries that we originally were bulking up inside our stash. This is ultimately a very good thing. It allows you to go and scrap down your legendary items into a script machine, and then you're able to use this script as currency to purchase new legendary armors or weapons. You can choose whether if you want a 1, 2 or 3 star item, and you can choose whether if you want an armor, a melee weapon or a ranged weapon. And this is ultimately a very cool thing for the game. Not only does it give us the ability to get rid of a lot of the rubbish legendaries that we've been holding on to, which also makes the servers more stable, because I guarantee many of you guys were hoarding many trash legendaries that you decided to keep for just for sentimental sake, but now you actually have something you can do with them. It actually makes the servers a bit more stable, and it also gives us people who go and nuke areas very frequently the ability to hopefully get another chance of getting something really, really good. The only thing I don't really like about the legendary purveyor at the minute is that you don't get enough script per day. You can only script 150 items worth of script in a single day. This basically means that if you have lots and lots of stock to script down, it's gonna take forever. They actually introduced the legendary script machines a week before the trader herself turned up, and it took me a week to liquidate £1,000 worth of legendaries down. It took a week, and that honestly was way too long. I feel as if we were able to get maybe 500 a day, that would be a much more fair way in order to go and scrap our legendaries down effectively. If, for example, you go into a nuke zone, you will come out with maybe 20 or so legendaries, and you want to script all of them down. It's going to take forever if you've got lots of 3 stars, if you know what I'm saying. So I think more script per day would be a very welcome change to the legendary trader system, but overall, I like it. I think it's a very good way to help servers be stable. I think it's a very good way to get an extra chance of getting a legendary you want. And the fact that you can actually pick what stars you want, I think it's fantastic. It helps take a lot of the guessing game out, and overall is a very cool system. And the final event for Wild Appalachia was of course Project Paradise. This was the new high-level dungeon for Fallout 76, which takes place below Arctos Farmer in the forest. This was such a cool event. I was really happy with Arctos Farmer. Arctos Farmer is easily one of the most beautiful locations inside Fallout 76. This underground paradise is incredible, and I absolutely adore every second of exploring this location. It is really cool. And also, something which I really like about Project Paradise is that it's kind of a tiered event and encourages you to work harder doing every objective throughout the events. Normally with events in Fallout 76, you either win or you lose, and that's pretty much the end of it. But with Project Paradise, the more effort you put into the first objective, the easier things will be in the future. The more effort you put in now, the better reward you will get. So therefore, you have to maximize everything at the start in order to get truly the best rewards you possibly can in Project Paradise, which I absolutely love. And also, I love the fact that it is a harder challenge. There have been too many things throughout Wild Appalachia which are targeted for all skill levels and all players. I understand that you want to include everyone in order to get the most player participation, but frankly, you need high-level events. We need much more high-level events like this, because as you start to play more and more, eventually you'll get bored. So more high-level player events, I think, would be a great thing for Fallout 76. By all means, allow low-level players to come in if they want to, but, you know, they might learn the hard way that they're not ready to actually complete this event, in which case they'll go level up a bit more and come back later, and then everybody wins. So I think it's really good that we finally got a high-level event. I think the Burroughs was meant to be a high-level event, but obviously, I think they took the lessons from the Burroughs and applied them to Project Paradise to make a much more fun, high-level event. However, there are some problems with Project Paradise, as you'd expect. Primarily, there is no world alert when the event starts. This is generally a bit of a problem with Project Paradise actually, because you need a lot of players to complete it effectively. If you go to an event like Encryptid or Scorched Earth, it actually flashes up a server-wide notice saying, hey, this event is on. If you want to go down, you should probably go and do it. But that doesn't happen with Project Paradise. And Project Paradise, you need a lot of players to complete it to its fullest potential. I don't care how good you are at the game. You can't complete the actual events to its fullest potential with one player, because there is just too many things to do. It doesn't matter if you're really good at killing stuff in Project Paradise. You need to do multiple things at multiple times, and you can't do that by yourself and expect to get to maximum results. So I feel as if having a server-wide alert whenever Project Paradise starts would be a fantastic thing. And not only that, any event which encourages all the players to go to one spot at any one time is always awesome. I absolutely adore that. Most of the really cool things in Wild Appalachia bring lots of players together, I've personally found. And also, there is another major issue with Project Paradise, and here's the thing. I don't know if this is Bethesda's fault or if it's just players basically being a bit inept. I'm personally willing to believe that players are just not paying attention too much or just not willing to participate. But there are too many players who act like they don't know what to do in the first half. In the first half of Project Paradise, you need to fill the feed troughs with food that you can find in the various biomes. I see so many players just not doing this. They're just walking around shooting things, or in some cases, just running around aimlessly looking for something to do. Again, I don't know if this is players just not wanting to do the boring part of the mission, but it needs to be explained just to put it in people's faces that the better you do in the first part of the event, the more rewards you will get. Because in the first part of the event, if you get all the feed troughs to full, you will get amazing creatures to defend. And if you get all those amazing creatures alive by the final event, you will get huge amounts of legendary enemies, more XP, more enemies, and you'll ultimately get far better rewards. But I feel as if players are either not being incentivized to do it, so therefore they don't, or it's just not being explained properly. I don't know the answer to that, but ultimately, it would be nice to have some way to encourage players to force them to take part in the very first part of the event where you have to fill the feed troughs to do it properly. For everyone. For science. So that was all that was included inside Wild Appalachia, and I obviously didn't mention the hundreds and hundreds of fixes that have been addressed and overall little improvements that have been added to the game. I just talked about the overall major content that was added. I suppose overall, I think the first season of DLC, Wild Appalachia, has been a huge success. I think the new stuff that's been added has been fantastic. It's helped bring in new players, it's helped bring back older players, and overall I think Fallout 76 is a much brighter game because of all the stuff that was added. Little things like player vending and the legendary purveyor will help change the way the game is played on a fundamental basis forever. Things like survival mode, whilst aren't for everyone, is there now. So therefore it's always going to be there now, and players are never going to be asking for something like it because it's already there. And it's very easy to update it now the main framework has been done early. As well as some of the major cool events and some of the cool quest lines, I think have ultimately made Wild Appalachia the huge success it is. I actually did do a poll on my channel to see what your favourite parts of Wild Appalachia were, and it turns out that 53% of the 1,700 people who voted all said their favourite part of Wild Appalachias were the new quest lines. Closely followed was the player vending, and then of course we had for tied third place, we had the legendary vendor and the pioneer scouts, and people felt as if the camp brewing system and the camera were the least enjoyable parts of Wild Appalachia. I think this says a lot of interesting stuff. Firstly, it says people are really enjoying events which bring people together, and they also love things that help bring people together outside of events. For example, the player vending helps bring people together, and we can see each other's camps. This has a very interesting trend. People inside Fallout 76 want to interact with other players more. That's what I feel as if this data says. And not only that, but it also says that people really enjoy questing inside Fallout 76. Rather than say PvPing or grinding for challenges, they enjoy questing, and they enjoy questing in large groups. So overall, I think Wild Appalachia has been a great success. In just a few weeks' time, we will have Bethesda's E3 conference, in which case we will get some brand new news on the Nuclear Winter season of DLC, which is their second season of DLC, and they have already started to hint about what's going on inside Nuclear Winter DLC season. In fact, you can find them in the game right now. I'm not going to talk about them myself, but I have shown a couple of the hints inside background footage of the video, so the hints are out there, you just got to go and find them. Thank you very much for watching this video, people. I know it's been a very long video. I did not expect this video to be this long. I thought it was only going to be about 10 minutes long or so, but it's been very long, and I hope you have enjoyed this kind of overall review of Wild Appalachia, and I really can't wait for Nuclear Winter and future seasons of DLC. Bethesda, give yourself a pat on the back. I know it's been rough, but you guys have been doing a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see what you do next. So people, thank you very much for watching this video. Remember to check out all the cool Patreon people in the description below who help support the channel with their financial donations. You, of course, can also do the same. Remember to also check out the YouTube members whose names will scroll on across at the bottom, and you can join the green team by hitting the join button beneath the video. And I'll see you around. This has been the final render, and you've been the audience. Until next time, farewell.